So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go inside of this, the visual, and we're going to put different states inside of it. You'll see what I'm saying in a second. So I'm going to double click to go inside of it. And right now I have a layer. We'll just call this, states. Okay. Actually, let's call this visuals. All right. So I have one. This is the default state we're going to say, and I wanted to do different ones. One for the head, one for the chest, and one for the bottom. So I'm just going to do a new one for a new frame for each. Okay. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to hit F7 to insert a blank keyframe. You could also just right click and insert blank keyframe and insert blank keyframe, right? So we have default state and then head, chest, and legs. That's the idea. Now, I already made these animations. If we go over here, you will see, I don't remember the names of them. Is it brain? No, that was the symbol that goes. So some of them are things inside of things. Oh, here we go. So the nice little thing you can do actually to make it a little bit easier is if you select it, you can hit the play button, and then you can see it working. Like, okay, so that was that one. That was the one I was looking for. So good. So that's it there. So I'm just going to drag this in here, and I'm just going to kind of set it up, and I'm going to put an onion skinning, and I'm going to try and match it up to the first one, which that looks pretty okay. All right. So now we have this frame. Let me turn this off. We have the default, then we have the brain one. Okay. Inside the brain one, there's not really all that much going on. I just shouldn't be in actions in here. We don't need that. There's the text, which is just this layer with the text on there. There's the eyes, which basically I just did a closed eyeball drawing there, right? And then open and close, just so it blinks twice. And then I just have a brain drawing and the body, where I just colored it differently. All right, so nothing too special, just something real big. And you don't have to do like a crazy. You can see this isn't really just blinking, right? So you don't have to do anything too crazy. Okay, so the next one is the chest. So I'm hoping this is it. This looks like it is. Yeah, so this is just the chest animation. And I had to make some other like different symbols in here, to put different poses and things. So there's some extra symbols in here, but really those were built just to do this. So we're gonna grab this one, drag this guy in here. I'm gonna hit onion skinning again, and I'm just gonna try and match this up. And let's see, right there looks good. And then I'm just gonna do the next one, and that's the dancing. I think that's the whole thing as well. Boom, and we'll just put that in there. That looks pretty solid. I think it's there. I'm gonna turn onion skinning off, and then what I'm gonna do is just go through the frames and make sure there's no shifting. Looks like there's a tiny bit of shifting there, but it isn't bothering me that much. I think it's like less than a pixel. Okay, so now if you look, you can see I have basically the different states. Just to make things a little bit easier, what I'm going to do is click on this, and we're going to call this one states, and we're going to insert a blank keyframe on each one of these. So I'm just going to go F7, 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 or right click and insert blank keyframe. You can also just do insert keyframe, so there's nothing before it. That would also work. So I'm just going to F6 or F7, either way. So these are just empty frames. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to put frame labels on these to make things easier. So I'm going to literally click on the frame here. You'll see label, and I'm just going to call this default. Go to this one, and we'll call this brain. Let's call it head. Let's just make things easier. Call this one chest. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to put state on it, so it's, because I don't want it to get confused with the other stuff. So we'll call it default state, head, state, chest, state, state, and legs, state. Legs, state. Okay. Be sure you do not want to put a space in between. Notice I'm using what's called camel case, which means every subsequent word has a capital letter. Okay, so good. And it just makes it easier. It's good for organizational purposes. It actually is going to help us to code as well. All right. So now, click back here, and if we hit Control Enter, what you're going to see is it's going to fly through the animation. It's going to look weird. Woo! Right? So it's not quite what we're looking for. So we need to make a couple fixes here. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's go back here. And I think that's most of that setup. How much time? Okay. So I'm going to go back to the scene, right? So we got the buttons, which you can't really see. And then we got the cone, which is here. We'll just go with that for now. Okay. So all I want to do is just make it so that it doesn't constantly play. So actually, we need to do one thing. Go inside of the guy. And just for the purposes of starting up, just so it doesn't loop, because right now it's constantly looping, we're just going to go here, just click on the first frame, and what we're going to do is we're just going to make a stop at this frame, so it doesn't just keep playing constantly. So modify, or sorry, window, you can hit F9 as well, actions, that's the hotkey to open this up. We're going to go with code snippets, HTML5 canvas, timeline navigation, stop at this frame. This doesn't matter, I just want it to look cleaner. Someone's getting rid of the extra gobbledygook. So it's just going to say this stop. Automatically did in actions that says stop, and you're going to see it automatically stops at that frame now. And now when I hit Control Enter, it doesn't loop because it's just playing the first one. Okay, so it looks good. All right, so this stop, we need to do that first. All right, now you can back up to the scene here. We'll put this over here, timeline. Okay. Because what I got to do is tell it to move to the next thing using that. All right. Okay, so we've now got that going. That's good. So now it's just stopping. And when it's in here, it's going to stop here. But we want to tell it to go to these different states based off of our buttons here that we made earlier. These guys. Okay. So we're going to do a couple of things. One is these each, because we're going to interact with them through code, are going to need an instance name. So we'll just call this the head. Call this one chest. And we'll call this one legs. Okay. So, and notice I did them all caps just to keep it clean. All right. So, head, blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah. That way, when I use my code, it will be able to interact with these things specifically. Okay. So, what we want to do is we'll just start with the head and make things a little bit easier. I want the head that when I click on it, I want it to go to I want to go to a frame and then stop at that frame. So, we want to go to frame 2. So, I'm going to select the head. I'm going to double click to go to frame and stop. Try that again. Come on, you can do it. There it goes. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the extra bits here. And now it says this dot head, blah, 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 does whatever, right? So it says add event listener, listening for click. It's going to run the function that is here. Right now, this will say click to go to frame. That's the name of it. And it says this go to frame and stop. And it's going to say 5, which means it's going to go to frame 5. We don't even have anything in here. So it's not going to really do much of anything. What I want to do is actually not that. I want to go inside of this symbol, this movie clip we have here, the actual, not this one, but, I'm sorry, this one. I want to go inside of that and tell that to go inside of its frame. And I want to go to frame 2, okay? Actually, it's frame 1, but I'll explain that afterwards. Okay, so in order to do that, what we got to do besides that is select the graphic itself. So I'm going to make the buttons invisible. I'm going to select the graphic, the thing that has the elements inside of it. And we need to give this also an instance name so we can interact with it through code. And I'm just going to call this cone. Okay? All right. Now that you've done that, back up to the scene, or we're already in the scene. Go ahead and you can lock and hide that, unlock and hide the buttons. If you go here, you'll see it says scene, actions 1, and then this one, you can see there's one inside of the cone symbol. That was the stop that we put in earlier. If I click on this one, though, it's what we just did. So actions, frames, blah, blah, blah. You can also, should be able to just do it right here as well. Let me back this up, click off. Well, anyway, you can click on it there. So now what I want to do is this. It's not going to be this. It's going to be this dot cone, because that's the name of the symbol. So inside of this, which is the stage, there's something called cone. For instance, we want to interact with the head. See how this says this dot head add event listener? Now we're doing this dot cone, and we're going to say go to and stop, and it's going to be frame 1. Now the reason why it's 1, which doesn't probably make a lot of sense because you're like it was on frame 2, was because this is JavaScript and the first frame's 0. It's how it indexes it. So even though if we were doing ActionScript, it would be frame 2, but because we're in JavaScript, it's going to be frame 1, because 0 frame would actually be the default, and then frame 1 is the brain one, then 2 and 3. You could also do it this way. I think I got to put it in quotes. What did we call that? We called it head state. So we're going to go to and stop, and then we're going to say head state. Okay. Now where I got that from is this. If you recall, we named this frame head state. So we can actually use our frame labels to also navigate to our areas. At least it works in JavaScript. We're going to find out if it works, or it works in ActionScript. We're going to find out if it works in JavaScript in a second here. Okay, let's lock those back up. So with the button, let's click on this guy. Okay, so it says head state. Let's see if this works. And I'm going to click on his head, and it did work. Okay. Now, nothing else works. It goes to there, and then it's just stuck in there because we didn't have any way of getting out or whatever. Okay. We're just going to do the same thing for the rest of those. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this button, and we're going to click the same thing. This to go to frame and stop. Double click on it. I'm going to get rid of the comments here that explain how it works. So it says all the same stuff, but again, I want to do this dot cone. And we're going to go to and stop, and it was the chest. Oops, gotta put quotes. Chest state. Okay, and so that will do the chest state. I could also, instead of writing it out, we could have also just done 2, or I'm sorry, 1. No, 2. This one is 1. This one will be 2. The next one will be 3. Sorry, I'm getting confused myself here. But I'm just going to use the frame label because it's easier that way. So we're going to select this again. Click to go to frame and stop. Go like this, boop, boop. Helps if you go boop, boop. And we're going to take this out, and this is going to be leg state, I believe is what it was. And we got to make sure we do this dot cone, dot go to and stop. Okay. So now we're going to hit Control Enter to test it. Command Enter if you're on a Mac, obviously. That works. That also works. I'm not getting... Okay, it might not be called leg state. Let's check. Timeline. Leg state. I might have named it poorly. I'm going to lock and hide. Unlock, unhide. And... oh, I wrote legs state. I put a S for legs. That's why. I'm going to go back here. And we'll just put leg state. Names have to be exactly the same. There he goes. And now he dances. Look at him dance. Okay. And that one works, and this one works. Now, you notice, though, I can't unclick, though. So we're going to add that. And it's the same thing we've already done. It's actually a little bit easier in some regards. So what we have to do is we need to make a button out of the outside here. So I'm just going to make another layer. Just going to put it way in the back. And we'll just call this one the stage. Okay. We're going to call it not stage. We'll call it background. Okay. And what I'm going to do is grab my rectangle tool here. And I'm just going to close these out to get them out of the way. Grab the rectangle tool here. Click to change the color. I'm just going to click on the background color as it already is. I'm going to click on this and do no color. So it's just a gray. It's the same color as this. But if you want to do something different, go for it. And I'm just going to go to the top and click and drag. See, it goes farther. But I'm just going to try and match it up as well as possible. Good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab that. I don't know if you can see that I grabbed it, but probably can't, but I did. So it's selected. I'm just going to F8 or go modify, convert to symbol, and we will make this not a button. I'm going to do a movie clip. I'll show you why afterwards. And we'll call this background underscore MC. I need to give it a name, so we'll just call this background for the name. All right, and now we just need to hook it up with code. So I'm going to select it. We're going to go to, I'm just going to hit F9, but you can go Window Actions. And then I need the code snippets, doop-a-doop, and timeline navigation. And we're going to click on this background shape. And we're going to go to click to go to frame and stop, just like we did with the other ones. Boom, boom, boom. And this will again be this dot cone. And it's going to go to frame and stop. And I think we called it default stage. Okay, so let's just double check to make sure that works. Could also just put 0 in. So that, and if I click on this, didn't work. Okay, so let's just go in here. I don't remember what I named it. So let's see, cone. And it looks like that's right. Control C. Let's go back here. Oh, I must have spelled it wrong, apparently. Okay. Well, that's going to bother me, so I'm going to rename it. This here. Default. Oh, yeah. Default state. Oh, yeah. Default. It should be default state. Never mind. Okay. All right, let's go back here. Default state. There we go. I wrote stage for, I think because I was calling it stage. There you go. So now if you click on that, but I click anywhere not on it, it goes out. Now, the reason why I didn't do this as a button is, for one, I want to show you that you don't actually have to use a button for it to be clickable. The other reason is this. You'll notice that when I hover over, see how it turns into a hand, which gives the impression that you can push on that, which is good. But I didn't really want that out here. Otherwise, this all would look like one big button. I like the fact that it's a distinction between the two. Okay, so it is button specific, that it gives you the little the cursor change. But I can still click off and have it do the other things there. Okay. And I think that was it. Okay, so basically what I want you to do is just make something interactive. You know, if you could do like 3 buttons. They don't have to literally be one big guy, and it doesn't have to be that well animated. It doesn't have to have any animation. If you want just clicks and it says some sort of information, you click another thing, it says some sort of information, you click and it says something else, that's fine. I just wanted to make so that when you click on stuff, it will, you know, do those things. All right. And that is it. So good luck.